Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I was really in the mood to make a meatloaf, but I didn't want to use the traditional ground beef and pork for it. So I did a little searching through some recipes and I came across a chicken loaf that has a mushroom gravy to go along with it. So for today's recipe, I'll be using 2.5 pounds of ground chicken, 2 eggs that I've gone ahead and lightly beaten. And here I have 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. This is going to add a little bit of much needed fat into this because chicken is very lean and I don't want it to be a dry meatloaf when I get done with it. I'll also be adding in 1/2 cup of panko to help bind this together along with the eggs. 1 tablespoon of horseradish just to give it a little bit of a kick. Some onion soup mix. This is 3 tablespoons or 1 packet of onion soup mix. That'll go in to help boost the flavor up as well. In here I've got 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of a granulated garlic. And then for a little bit of freshness, I've opted to use 2 tablespoons of parsley, 1 teaspoon of chopped thyme, and 1 teaspoon of chopped fresh sage. These are all the ingredients that are going to go into the meatloaf itself. The rest of these are going to be for our gravy later. So let me go ahead and get this completely combined together and we can move on to the next step. After I got all the ingredients combined, I went ahead and transferred it into a 9 by 13 inch baking dish that I lightly coated with a little bit of cooking spray just to help prevent it from sticking while it's in the oven. I've shaped it into my loaf form and now it's going to go into a 350-degree oven where it'll bake for about 50 to 60 minutes or until it reaches an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The chicken loaf is close to being done in the oven, so I want to go ahead and move on to making the gravy. I've gone ahead and melted 1 tablespoon of butter into my saucepan, and I'm going to add in about 2 cups of sliced mushrooms. If you're allergic to mushrooms or you don't like mushrooms, you could certainly leave these out and just do a plain chicken gravy, or even, do some sauteed onions here and make an onion gravy. I think that would work amazingly as well. After sauteing for about 4 minutes, the mushrooms are cooked. I'm going to add in 3 cups, of a low sodium chicken stock. I'll also be adding in 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. And then to season it up, I've got 1 sprig of thyme. I'll pull those stalks out once the gravy is done. Now that the broth has come up to a boil, I'll be adding in 3 tablespoons of cornstarch that I've mixed in with 1/4 cup of white wine. If you don't want to use white wine here, you can certainly just substitute it with either 1/4 cup of water or 1/4 cup of additional chicken stock. This needs to sit and simmer for about 2 minutes to allow the cornstarch to thicken up the gravy, and then I'll probably move it down to a very low heat just to keep it warm until the meatloaf is out of the oven. After the chicken loaf came out of the oven, I did allow it to sit on the counter for about 10 minutes just to kind of cool down a little bit. I've topped it off with the gravy. Now I did adjust the seasoning on the gravy a little bit. It needed a little bit more salt, and I did remove those thyme sprigs. We don't need them now that they've done their job. Alright, all we have left to do is dive in and try it out. And I will say this thing smells absolutely amazing. Oh wow, this is absolutely incredible. It is so packed with flavor, and I'm so happy that I chose to use fresh herbs over the dried ones. I think it makes a big difference in this. This is arguably probably one of the best meatloaves I have ever made in my life. It is incredibly flavorful. Those fresh herbs, once again, really lift this up to another level. I do not miss any beef or pork or anything in this. The chicken is not dry whatsoever. In fact, it's very well balanced, and the gravy is just a nice little topper on it. I think you could probably even get away without the gravy if you didn't want it. It is not a very calorie intensive dish. For 1 slice of the meatloaf plus about 1/3 cup of the gravy, it only equals out to about 290 calories. So if you're watching your weight, this would be a good one to add into your rotation. But that is going to be it for me for the day. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave me a comment down below. If you tried this recipe out, let me know how it turned out for you. And as always, thank you all so very much for joining me today. I've been Valker. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.